What's up, Waterboy? It's me and Luke. It's pretty funny because I suck and he doesn't. so, I wish that wasn't the case, but I guess I'm just gonna have to feel inferior for this entire thing. If you want to be on a podcast episode, you can just DM me and we can work something out. But, yeah. So, Luke, how about you start us off with your number one?
Will do, and just wanted to say I think you picked the first right guest as being number one in both of our Dynasty and Keeper League. Maybe I can teach you a thing or two here
Yeah,
and help you with that few rebuilds you got going.
I just call myself a rebuilder when in reality I kind of just suck.
Okay, well, yeah, starting at the top of the list of the top 10 Dynasty, well, I should say top 12 Dynasty wide receivers that we're going over today. I have Jamar Chase. I think he and Burrow, both just have bright futures. They're going to be together for years, and I think that might be the best, battery mates right there. Jamar's on pace right now for almost 1,600 yards, and 13 touchdowns as a rookie, and I don't see him slowing down anytime soon. So that would be who I would want to have as a wide receiver in
Wait.
Dynasty.
What? I thought he couldn't catch.
That
I
was
thought
that was
I thought he needed the little college stripes on the ball to be able to catch.
I mean,
How weird how that
he
works.
had those. He might hit
Um
2K.
yeah, if he could actually catch, he'd probably be easily the best receiver, but I don't have him as the best receiver. You know why? Because I got Justin Jefferson
Trade bait.
as my number one receiver. So, okay, to be real here, it's not very close. I have Jamar as my 2, but I have Jefferson at 1 just because we've seen one more season of this type of production. But if if Jefferson came out this year and Chase came out last year, I think I would have had this flipped. It's just I've seen more from Jefferson, or I've seen for longer from Jefferson, but it's just he's so talented, and it's so crazy because in college he was just shoved into the slot and then once he came to the NFL, the Vikings are like, "Wait, why are you just shoving this guy in the slot? He's literally the best receiver in the class." So they basically turned him into a superstar. And yeah, I just think that it's not super like they're not super far away from each other, but it's honestly personal preference. I just have Jefferson first. And it's totally not because I own him in Dynasty. It's totally not that. I'm totally not biased. But yeah. So Luke, who do you have at number 2?
I do kind of agree with you, and why I have Chase one, I do have Jefferson second, and he set the rookie receiving yards record last year with about 1,400, and he's on pace to do it again, another 1,400 yards, and like you said, I do agree that he's got that consistency piece. I don't know if he's ever going to be the wide receiver one on any season, but he's probably always going to be in the top 10 for the you know foreseeable future. So even though he's got Kirk Cousins as QB, he's been getting it done. So that's why I have as
Yeah,
number two.
honestly, it's like Jefferson and Jamar are like in their own tier, and then it's like everybody else below them. I just think if you have one of these two, which I do, uh, then you should be super happy, and you should be thankful that people thought Jamar couldn't catch. Um, all right, so for my number 3, I have Tyreek Hill, and he people have the misconception that he's just like a just like a Mecole Hardman, or like uh maybe bad timing, but like Henry Ruggs, where he's just like a speed demon who has
Fingers.
butterfingers and can't catch. But really, Tyreek Hill is a complete receiver. He can catch, he can high point the ball. He's a good route runner, and he's like the fastest player ever to play. So even though he's 27, which isn't like young, I think he still has like 3 years left of being elite, which in Dynasty, that's a solid time frame. I don't think that anybody's like, oh, what about in 4 years when when the league's probably dead? Like people I think people take age too much into account, but I still think that age is important. But you can't deny that Tyreek is kind of a beast. So now, Luke, I know you kind of got like a take here, which may not be a hot take depending on who you are. But who do you have at 3?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I do see it a little bit differently. And, you have those top two guys and then the big drop off. Well, for me, I have it as a top three. And you really, I wouldn't argue if you switched any of them around. And then I have the teardrop after that. And, I have CD Lamb at 3. Obviously the talent's there. And, kind of the problem this year he's having, besides just being young and finding himself is the Cowboys, they've kind of switched to more of a run-heavy offense this year, and obviously just the crowded receiver room with Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup. But if you look a little bit farther out, Michael Gallup's a free agent this year. Amari Cooper, this is the last year that his full 20 million cap hit would result in dead money. Any year after this year, his 20 million cap hit will only result in about 4 or 5 million of dead money, and you might see him cut in the next year or two, um, or at least restructured. So I'm not too worried about that receiver room, and Dak has been maybe not one of the best dynasty quarterbacks this year, but he's been one of the best and most consistent real life quarterbacks this year, and that Dak and Lamb combo, I can see, I see them in the same tier as Jamar and Justin Jefferson, looking forward, the kid's 22. So that's kind of how I see it. So a little bit differently than you. I would be really happy to have any of those three guys.
Yeah. I have CD at 4. So, you know, it's it's either going to be that the Cowboys decide to go cheaper and re-sign Gallup, but then they cut Cooper to save some money, or they keep Cooper and let Gallup walk, which is probably the more like, likely situation. But even then, I think that CD has already taken over. I mean, there's still like a 1A, 1B, but I don't think that there's much question that CD is the 1B or the 1A. So I, you know, I don't really have him in the same tier as Jefferson and Chase, but definitely have him in the same tier as like Hill and my next guy. But I'll let you do your fifth first.
Fourth, you
Oh,
mean?
fourth. You have a fourth. Oh, that's interesting.
I usually go
Yeah,
from
yeah,
4, 5,
yeah. I mean,
3, 5.
I'm more of like I'm more progressive, so I like to I don't think that 4 is a very fair number. So if you wanted to go 3 to 5, then that's fine. But if you're more traditional and you like to have 4 in between them two, that's fine.
Yeah, call me the traditionalist there. But I have DK Metcalf. Like I said, I think it's a little bit of a teardrop from 1 to 3. But the Metcalf, there is some concerns there. Russell Wilson, who knows where he's going to be, and Metcalf did okay when Geno was in for those 2 games, but I think we both agreed him and Geno Smith would not be a duo I'd be looking to invest in very heavily if that Russell Wilson did leave. But overall, the dude's just super talented. He reminds me a little bit of Mike Evans, and he's just a big, athletic possession receiver. And Mike Evans has had, so much. He's been a top 20 receiver for his whole career, 10 plus years. I could see that for Metcalf, just being ultra consistent, and, as long as he avoids injuries. And, I do have some concerns, when his athleticism dies down, if he'll be effective. But at 23, I think he's looking really good the next 3, 4 years. And, that's an eternity in
Yeah,
fantasy.
Metcalf, he's my number 5, and he, I don't think that he is on I don't think he's on the same level as like CD, Jefferson, and Chase, just because I don't. It's just he always he relies on like he just has like those deep touchdowns. That's my biggest issue. Like he doesn't get like a whole lot of like catches. So if he doesn't get a touchdown, then you're probably disappointed. And once Wilson leaves, which I think is super likely at this point, I like you said, I wouldn't be betting much on Geno Smith and DK Metcalf as like some dynamic touchdown scoring duo. So, but he is a freak athlete. Like he's probably one of the most athletic players on the list. But I just don't think that the situation in Seattle is as stable as people like to think. But either way, it's just that talent that really keeps him this high, because he's kind of just like Megatron if Megatron came out now. But uh yeah, so now your actual number 5. Who would that be?
So I think my number 5 might be a little bit of a surprise too. And I didn't have this guy at 5 when I had made my initial list, but as I was walking through it, looking through the data and arguments for this list, just
You
make
sound
myself.
very smart.
Yeah, that's the goal here. But if my league records don't speak for themselves, but I have Cooper Cup. This year, we all know he's having a crazy year, and again, this isn't a jelly bean argument, and that he's on my dynasty team, so I'm going to rank him high. Um, but this year he's already got 85 receptions, 1,100 plus yards, and 10 touchdowns. He's had 10 targets every week, except for one where he had 9, and he's on pace, after his bye this week for 145 receptions, 1,940 yards, and 15 touchdowns. And just his um, production hasn't really been fueled by one or two big games. He really has had every game be big. So, teams are focusing on him, and they're not really finding ways to shut him down. He's just that type of dude who's always going to be open. And with that, and obviously he's a little bit older. He is 28. His game isn't based all on athleticism, so I think he'll age fairly well. But I think with Stafford there, and that with how much the Rams just gave up for Stafford, they're really in their 2 to 3 year championship window. I think Cup is going to be top 3 wide receiver these next 2 or 3 years, at least as long as Stafford's there. Stafford's shown how much he's willing and likes to target him, and Cup's rewarded him by having a huge year. So just looking the next few years, I think he is someone I really want on my team, more so than some of these younger guys who really have a lot of potential and will probably have longer careers, but just the height of their dominance, Cup is just about as high as anyone's been in fantasy over the last decade
Yeah,
this year.
like I don't know what it is about him, man. It's just he's a real lunch pail kind of guy. Got a lot of spunk. Just
Yep,
real hard worker, more quick than fast. It's just it's just something about him. I see it. I don't know what it is.
sure. John Gruden
Yeah,
will have to get his hands on Cooper Cup.
that's probably a John Gruden quote, but I'm not sure. Um joking, by the way. He's super good. Um yeah, he's my number 6. He's having a monster season. He has the total trust of Stafford and McVay, which you know, that offense is going to be good for a while. And there's no reason to think that he won't be the wide receiver one again next, or like not like the overall, but the wide receiver one on the Rams next year. Because Woods is going to be 30 coming off an ACL injury. Van Jefferson will be competing with Woods for the 2, and then who knows if the prima donna is going to be back next year.
Tony Harding.
But yeah, he's just really good. This was like a 28-year-old breakout, which it doesn't happen that often. But yeah, it's just, and he also has a cool last name, so you got to take that into account, like Cooper Kupp with 2 P's and a K. Which honestly might be the biggest thing for me, cool last name.
Really all you could ask for.
I wish, we should bring back the cool last names. Like, why do we have to have such boring last names now? Like Hill, Jefferson. Like, we've seen so many Jeffersons, we've seen so many Hills, and then we got AJ Brown. Just bring back the cool last names. But I'm not gonna make the mistake of not knowing what number we're on. So you can have the whatever number we're on.
Give a quick shout out to Thorne for drafting Ronald Jones right before I drafted Cooper Kupp. Thank you, Thorne, for that gift you gave me, and I hope you're
Thoughts and
enjoying Ronald
prayers.
Jones. I think we
Yeah.
are
Yeah,
on
you're on
6.
6.
I'm on 6 at least. I'm going to even up our lists finally, and I'm going to go with Tyreek Hill. At first glance, a lot of people have been kind of concerned this year with just the Chiefs' performance, at least until last week, and it seemed like maybe Hill is finally they found the strategy for Mahomes and Hill, drop the 2 safeties, and he can't kill you with the speed, but uh, it is nice to see Hill's still I think a top 5 wide receiver this year. I don't have the number off the top of my head, but I believe he's still in the top 5, and
I think
one
he's the
thing,
3.
yeah. Sounds about right. And he kind of has adjusted. He's not getting, the as many 20-yard bombs this year, but he's on pace to have the most receptions of his career this year. In a year where the Chiefs are throwing a lot because they've been down a lot more, but he in his 27-year-old year, that's nice to see that he's adjusted. He's not getting the deep bombs as much anymore, but he's already got 75 receptions this year, and his career high is 87. So he's on pace to obliterate his career high. So he's kind of while he's not getting those deep targets, he's compensating by adding to his fantasy value by getting receptions. And I think when we're talking about looking forward, good quarterback wide receiver combos, everyone's worried about Mahomes this year, but ultimately he's Patrick Mahomes. He'll return to his form, and Hill Mahomes, not really any duo has been better the last few years, and I think they've still got a few more years left.
Breaking news, Mahomes and Hill are still good. I don't know why people were like, "Oh my god, the dynasty's over. Mahomes is washed. Hill is getting old." It's like, why? They haven't slowed down. It's literally just been, I mean, Mahomes has made some mistakes, but the talent is still there. He's still super young. He's still got like a bajillion years on his contract. And Hill is going to be there for a while. And people were just like, "Oh, it's over. What am I going to do? Do I sell Hill for 2 second-round picks?" And
Was that your exact trade offer?
No,
Maybe
maybe.
3
I'm not okay. Okay.
I would expose
Aside from
what
that,
would be offered.
aside from that, because that's definitely not true. Yeah, Hill is just, he's so good, and it shows how reactionary everybody is, including myself. I'm probably one of the most reactionary people out there, to where the career is over if they have one bad half a year. Which honestly can also be said about my number 7 guy, which is Devonte Adams. People are just like, oh, Aaron Rodgers is gone. He's going to be washed. Aaron Rodgers made Devonte Adams. And, to those people, I say, have you watched him? Have you watched him play? Have you watched football in the past 2 years? And the answer to that is apparently no, because Devonte Adams is still good. And even if Aaron Rodgers leaves, he can carry another quarterback. So
Maybe people would be saying that if they joined that red zone watch party every
yeah,
week.
yeah. I wish more
Pretty
of you
lovely.
joined. Shame on you. Shame on you.
You'd know Devonta Adams is
Yeah,
so good.
you would know. But that's your fault, not mine. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, I kind of just summarized it. Devonte Adams is good at football. Aaron Rodgers is good at football, but even if Aaron Rodgers leaves to be good at football somewhere else, maybe they get another quarterback who's good at football. There's a lot of possibilities here.
Well, that certainly isn't Jordan Love.
Yeah, maybe they can get Johnny Football.
Maybe Geno Smith.
Yeah, maybe Geno
Mike
Smith.
White.
Maybe Mike White. There's a lot of good veteran options out there. People like to discredit that. All right. So, who is your number 7? I was about to say number 7 in Spanish, but then I realized I don't know Spanish, so I just said number 7.
Yeah, maybe stick to your native language there.
Yeah. Hey, are you assuming?
Maybe I was.
Because you'd be assuming, right?
Well, yeah, my number 7, and I don't know his name in Spanish either, but is Stefan Diggs.
I think his name in Spanish
Stefano
would just be
Diggs.
Stefan Diggs.
Stefano Diggo.
Stefano Diggo.
That's my number 7. I have him, below some of the other more veteran options like Cup and Hill, because they both, I think, have number 1 or 2 receiver upside. And, obviously Diggs was the number 3 wide receiver last year, but I think.
But now he's washed.
Yeah. Now he's more of a, the number 8 receiver, number 9. He's pretty bad now.
You can just say he's washed.
That works. Yeah, I mean, so I think he, maybe like I've said with Jefferson, and he might not be the way Allen likes to spread out the ball. He might never be the number 1 dynasty receiver, but I think he's going to be, the way the Bills once again like to, they're the most pass heavy team. Allen again is a quarterback you definitely want to have the next few years. But yeah, I think them together is, really going to be locked in QB1, borderline wide receiver 1 the next few years. So that's why I have him at number 7.
Oh, that is why you have him at number 7. I almost fell asleep during that.
Why not? Because I have Allen and Diggs.
Yeah, couldn't be.
No. Homerism here.
All right, so my number 8 is a guy that I think people are way too high on. Okay. People have him like number 4, number 3. They're like, oh my God, he's so good. Oh my God, the Titans are so good. Oh my God, Ryan Tannehill is my dad. And then, but like AJ Brown, he's good. He's great, honestly. That's why I have him at number 8. But having him like that high. Like, I've seen him as high as 3. That's crazy. I don't get it. Like, AJ Brown, he's obviously talented. You know, he has that prototypical alpha build. You know, everybody's so you know they get weak in the knees when a guy's 6'3" and 220 pounds. You know,
I,
so you know, AJ Brown, he's good. He's good, but we have to remember the offense doesn't pass a lot. Okay, you know, and they're gonna get better receivers like Julio, and you saw that this year with Julio. They thought Julio was gonna be something good, like a number 2, but he's really just bad. And they're gonna try again. They're gonna try to get another receiver, and AJ Brown getting like 10 targets a game isn't gonna happen. So I think that when he scores touchdowns, he has good games. When he doesn't, he kind of sucks. And I don't really like having boom or bust players, except if I actually have them now, because then I'll defend them because I don't want to feel wrong. But yeah, I mean AJ Brown, he's good. I would probably pay at most a first and a second round pick, which, you know, it's just because I don't understand why people are so high on him. But people will ask for 3 first round picks, and I just can't do it. I can't do it. Why do you think that? Like, why do people think that? But that rant is over, and now let's flip to a more nice person, and we'll see what you have as your number 8.
I mean, I just wanted to add on AJ Brown. I definitely was in the party that probably had him ranked too high. You know, he was top. He was number 5 on my initial list when I just did it off the top of my head without looking at anything. You know, once I kind of looked back and took a deeper look into performance over the last few years and how I think it's going to play out over the next few years, I have dropped him, and he is not my number 8. So he still hasn't popped up on my list yet, but and I can give more of my opinion on him when I get to him. But my number 8 is Devonta Adams. You know, like you said, he still is a great football player. You know, he definitely has a few good years left. You know, he had a slow start to his career, but he was more of a late peaker as well. And last year he was the
Hold on. Late peaker. That's a really nice phrase. Just wanted to say that.
thank you, but yeah, he was the clear wide receiver 1 last year. You know, this year if he's not the clear wide receiver 1, he's close to it. You know, the one thing that's really hurting him, I think, is that the future isn't really quite clear. You know, he's going to be fine if Rodgers isn't there, but I don't think he's going to be the clear cut wide receiver 1. So, you know, if Rodgers seems set on leaving, you know, even Devonta Adams might leave. I believe he's a free agent this year too. So, you know, really it's hard for me to rank someone, you know, of that age higher than, um, you know, number 8, just because the future is so uncertain. You know, I think he'll still be a wide receiver 1 no matter who he goes and who he's with, but it might just be more of a low end wide receiver 1 if he's not with Aaron Rodgers, if one of the best QBs in the league, giving him 12, 13 targets a game. So that's why, you know, maybe he stays. Him and Rodgers both stay in Green Bay, and I look dumb for having him this low, but that's why I have him there just because of the uncertainty. But, you know, if you're looking at this year, he's definitely probably the wide receiver you want to have the most, besides maybe like a Cooper Kupp. Yeah, that's why I have him at 8.
Yeah, I'm looking now, and okay, so this is funny. So Devonte Adams is the wide receiver 4 so far on the year, and
Yep.
Cooper Kupp obviously is the wide receiver 1. So guess how many points are between Cooper Kupp and Devonte Adams, the wide receivers 1 and 4?
So Kupp hasn't had his bye yet, so it's probably a lot. Like, I'm gonna guess 40.
100.
Wow, that's
Or technically like 90, but it's close.
kind of crazy.
It's close to 100.
Just how
Yeah.
I think his
It's just
been the number one fantasy player this year. I think over all the quarterbacks. I think that is what I recall seeing. He has more points than any of the quarterbacks this year as well.
yeah, I think so. Yeah, and it's by like 20 points.
Yeah, so it just shows how crazy he's been this year.
He's so
But
crazy.
Adams had a similar season last year as well.
Um,
He had 300 plus points. So, you know, even though he's taken a slight drop, with a little bit more of the inconsistencies this year, he still is that level of player.
yeah. Okay, so you just did your number 8. My number 9 is somebody that people were like shooting up to the moon in the beginning part of the season, and then everybody kind of died down on him. But now I think he might be a little undervalued. I have DJ Moore as my wide receiver 9. And it's funny, Thorne, he asked me. He said, I'll actually bring it up right now. I'll bring it up right now.
Wow, Bourne's getting a lot of airtime this
He is.
podcast.
So he said this is dumb, but why is DJ Moore so good for Dynasty again? And it's not dumb because he hasn't really done much since he kind of broke out earlier this year. But there's a lot of answers to that question. One, he has a 29% target share. Okay. And he has the total trust of his coaching staff, which, if I'll be honest, the Panthers coaching staff is probably one of the best in the league right now. It's just been the QB play that has kind of held them back. But DJ Moore is their guy. Like, they want him to be their alpha number 1 receiver, and he is going to get a big extension, maybe even this offseason. So if you're going to give me a 24-year-old receiver who has a near 30% target share, who has the total trust and commitment of one of the best coaching staffs in the league, and is going to be making in the ballpark of $20 million a year.
So about as much as Robbie Anderson just got. Same thing.
Sign me up. Sign me up for that. He is so good. Like, I'm even thinking now, looking back on it, I'd probably have him over AJ Brown if I redid this list.
I haven't got either of them yet, so we'll see where I have them. Both.
But yeah, that's DJ Moore. If they get a quarterback that's a rookie quarterback that's at least on the level of Mac Jones, or even if they imagine if they get Deshaun Watson, like, it, just imagine what people are going to be saying about DJ Moore if the Panthers land Deshaun Watson and he isn't convicted of doing naughty things. Imagine what do you think people are going to say? They're going to be like, "Oh, this is the new CeeDee Lamb. He's tied to a great quarterback for forever." And he, like, get ahead of that. Like, be ahead of the curve. Go and get DJ Moore. Don't wait until he's going to cost you an arm and a leg. Get him right now while he's getting a crazy amount of targets and not producing super well because he has Cam Newton and Sam Darnold as his quarterbacks. So, yeah, that's my number 9. I feel really strongly about DJ Moore. But yeah, who is your number 9?
My number 9 is AJ. Like I said, I was kind of in the camp that had him, much higher up when I first made this list. But and okay, he is super talented. Who knows what the quarterback situation is going to be like the next few years. Obviously, I think with Henry getting hurt, I'm hoping they don't give him. I don't think they're going to be as run heavy next year. I don't think they're going to give him 500 carries next year. Obviously it's still going to be based around him, but he has been a very good rider. He's had 1,000 yards his first 2 seasons in the league, which is very good start, but he hasn't really shown that fantasy dominance yet. He's been a solid wide receiver too, both years. And, at this point, we're just waiting for the breakout. A lot of people, I think why a lot of people had him so high is because he was drafted so high, not only in Dynasty, but in redraft leagues this year. He was, going up.
Yeah.
Him,
It
DK
was
Metcalf are going
crazy.
up in the, second round, third round, just, because it's like, oh, AJ Brown is going to break out.
It was like in Dynasty, it was like the 1-2 turn. That was pretty common for where he was going.
Yeah, and he definitely is super talented, and he has the capability to break out. It's just hasn't happened this year. And by breakout, I mean he's obviously a very good receiver, but broken out for that top 10 wide receiver season.
Like actually producing like where he's being drafted.
Yeah,
that's what we're waiting for.
Yeah, so he, you have to come up here just based on what he's done so far, and hoping he builds off that. And at the very least, you have a very solid, low end wide receiver 1, high end wide receiver 2, with upside, and you just hope he taps into the upside over the next few years. But he's definitely, ranking 10 wide receivers I want on my team. He's one of them. Looking forward to the future.
Yeah. And also let's send out our thoughts and prayers and apologies to VV because he is an AJ Brown owner, and I will admit, okay, I have sinned, Father. Father, I have sinned. I have sent out offers for AJ Brown, okay? Offers that I've sent out an offer. I've sent out an offer that was 2 first-round picks, and I would have been happy with it. And if I had gotten him for 2 first-round picks, if he was on my team, he'd probably be like my number 5 receiver because I'm biased. But no, I don't care anymore. Sorry, VV, but I don't care.
First for AJ Brown, I think he's worth.
Yeah. So
2 mid first, maybe not the 1-1.
Yeah. All right, my number 10, okay? This is a guy, okay? This is a guy that people need to wake up on, okay? And it's Debo Samuel. And I say this as somebody who I drafted Ayuk in keeper in the 4th round. No, it's the 5th round, I think. It was the 5th round. I drafted Ayuk in the 5th round. And I was the biggest Ayuk guy. I was like, oh my god, this guy's gonna be so good. And they're like, you get him now. And then now, little old Debo Samuel, who I totally disregarded in the offseason. I didn't care about Debo. I thought he was trash. I thought he was gonna get injured. And now, Debo Samuel is what I thought Ayuk would be. He has a 35% target share. He has clearly beat out George Kittle and Ayuk, obviously, and he has become the wide receiver 1 in that offense, and he is the wide receiver 3 on the year. And there are no more excuses now for for Debo. Like what are you gonna say to discredit him? Like what's the counterpoint here? I could have him even higher. I mean, if you were rebuilding, Debo would probably be like the wide receiver 6, like where I have Cooper Kupp. Debo is so good. He's 25. He still has years left, and he's just proven it. And I'm gonna have to. Came a little unprepared. I'm gonna need to. I mean, I didn't come unprepared, but I totally forgot about this stat.
While you're looking, I can confirm he's number 10 for me as well. And for some reason, I kind of forgot this is only his 3rd season. I've known the name, so I kind of thought he'd been around for longer. And this is kind of his. He hasn't been bad before this, but this is definitely his breakout. And with his age and how he's looking, and who knows if Trey Lance will be good, but he's the type of talent that will be solid even if Trey Lance does look like Jordan Love. But
Yeah,
I have him at number 10 as well. So
yeah,
go ahead with
yeah,
that.
yeah. So air yard percentage. Debo Samuel has a 35% target share, as well as a 35% air yard share, which means he is the guy that they're going to deep. Like he is among the top of the league in air yard percentage. And that's no easy feat. Like they have Kittle, they have Ayuk, who was, their guy last year. And now he is kind of just like balling out, and people are still like, "Oh, Debo Samuel." Like I I drafted Ayuk in the 5th round, and I was willing to, take my L. Yes, I will take an L there. I was totally wrong on Ayuk.
It's all part of your genius rebuilding plan, right?
Yeah, I know. But that was in keeper, so I can't be called stupid for that. Well, we're not going to bring up my 5th round pick in Dynasty. We're not going to do that. Um, but yeah, Debo is a baller, and
Definitely
stop acting like he's not, please. Like for my sanity, and put some respect on his name. Uh, so yeah, like as you said, year 10 is Debo too. So
yeah,
I'll move on to my 11. My 11 is Stefan Diggs, which I
fresh.
I
Yeah.
was I had him higher originally, but as I thought about it, Debo's a baller, DJ Moore's a baller, AJ Brown is super talented, not a baller yet. Um, and then I have Cup and Adams at 6 and 7. I originally had Diggs as my 8, but now I have him at 11 because he he's kind of regressed back to what he was in Minnesota. He's good. He's great. Like he'll have his big games. He'll be like a consistent 15 points plus scorer, which is good. And he is currently the wide receiver 12, so he's a wide receiver 1 so far this year. And he has that elite connection with Josh Allen. So I don't think he's bad, obviously, but he's going to be 28 next year, which isn't super old, but once he gets that 30 years old, he's fine within the next 3 years. And he's obviously good. We just saw him kind of be a baller last year. But
Last week.
yeah, and last week he did ball out last week. You must be feeling yourself for that because you have him on your dynasty team.
I have on my dynasty team.
Yeah. So yeah, Diggs is good. He's my 11, and I'm confident with him there. I don't think I would have him any lower, but I just don't think I can have him over Debo, DJ Moore, or Cup or Adams. I can't have him over any of those guys. But yeah, who is your number 11?
Yeah, I think my 11 is one I don't imagine you have on your list, and or even in your honorable mentions. It's someone I'm just a little high on. Having a lot of my leagues this year. Sadly not either the Waterboy team because he's been really good, but someone I see that's really trending up and kind of under the radar, and that's Michael Pittman. The wide receiver 8 this year. In his second year, he's kind of breaking out. It's an offense that is really looking up. They have a good old line. Pittman's really looking like a X receiver, a number 1 receiver, and obviously Jonathan Taylor is looking amazing. So it's really Carson Wentz. He hasn't been amazing, but he's been a pretty solid QB this year. So their offense is looking pretty good and it's looking up. I think that's an offense you'll want pieces of in the future. And Pittman, like I said, he's the second year. He's already the wide receiver number 8. He's the clear number 1 on that team. I believe it was a second round pick, so he's got a decent amount of draft capital in him. They're not going to be necessarily looking to, trade or draft someone to go ahead of him. And, with T.Y. Hilton on the way out, he's kind of taken over that role. And, obviously he's a much different player than Hilton, but, I could see him being kind of that borderline wide receiver one with upside. He'll have a lot of big weeks looking towards the future. So that's who I have at 11.
Yeah, funny story. I originally had him at 12, but I moved him down because, they're going to get more receivers, and he's obviously really good. Like, I'm not saying he's not. I would probably have him in the 13 to 15 range. He's just outside. But I have Chris Godwin as my wide receiver 12. And something really funny is Chris Godwin's 25, which he's only 1 year older than AJ Brown. So
Yeah, he seems like he's been in the league forever.
yeah, like he was drafted in 2017. So he's only 1 year older than AJ Brown and DJ Moore. And he's in line for a big contract. He'll either leave the Bucks and become a wide receiver one somewhere else, which is pretty likely if I'm being honest, because they don't really have a lot of cap space. But yeah, if he leaves, he's easily on this list because he's only 25, same age as Debo. And he's super talented. If he was the wide receiver one, we already saw what he can do because he tore it up. I believe it was the year before last year, where he was like a top 5 receiver.
I think he could have Stefan Diggs last year type season where he was the number 2. Evans has probably been the number 1 the last few years. And, I think, once Diggs got out from under Thielen, he had that huge season as getting the number 1 opportunity for the Bills. And, I could see the same for Godwin. I could see him just becoming a top 5 wide receiver. And it has to be the right situation. But
yeah,
he definitely has.
Yeah, that's a really good comp. I didn't actually think about that before. That's a really good comp. Where do you think would be a good landing spot for him?
Oh, not the Colts, because then Michael Pittman goes all. Yeah, I honestly at this point don't really know who has cap space in the offseason. It's obviously going to have to be a team with cap space. It's going to want to be. He is young, so it might not necessarily be a competing team. It could even just be the Bucks. Obviously they don't have much cap, but a lot of the NFL. There's a lot of that was the same thing we were saying last year. There's no way they can keep Godwin, and they did. So we'll just have to see.
Yeah, but at the same time, there's a reason why they franchise tagged him.
I honestly don't know off the top of my head at this time. I know there's going to be tons of season, but
yeah, I'm still thinking.
A team like the Eagles, if they,
I think
or the Panthers, if they trade.
no, don't say the Eagles. Don't say the Eagles. I have Devonte Smith. No, don't say the Eagles.
I would think maybe the Redskins. One of the teams that's thinking of trading for Rodgers or Watson, might be a good pickup, a Godwin as well.
Yeah, that is a really good one.
But, be the Lions.
Imagine if Zach Wilson took a step next year and Chris Godwin signed with the Jets. But imagine, like, Zach Wilson he's really talented and he could do it. So imagine if you had Chris Godwin and I think that because there's nobody else there, high target share, that could work out really well. But I mean, that depends on Zach Wilson actually being it something, which we don't know yet.
I mean, he's made Corey Davis look pretty good, so I'm sure he can make Godwin look even better.
Yeah, I believe you would be on your wide receiver 12.
Yeah, right? I'm going to run through 12, and probably my few honorable mentions right after, just so we don't take up all the listeners' day. But speaking of the Eagles, my 12 is Devonta Smith. He he hasn't comparing him to a Jamar Chase. He seems like he's had a pretty disappointing rookie season, but in reality, rookie wide receivers don't always pop off. So him having solid wide, I think he's like the wide receiver 26, so right borderline wide receiver 2. He's had a pretty good season for a rookie, and I'd like to say that he'd probably look even better if he didn't have Jalen Hurts as his quarterback. And yeah, I think a lot of us in the fantasy community, Jalen Hurts is obviously a great fantasy quarterback, so we may not think of Jalen Hurts as awful, but Jalen Hurts is one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL. There's not really, especially when it comes to passing, he is not great. And he's thrown under 200 yards 6 of the 10 games this year, and I guess just to show Devonta's dominance, he's had 22 fantasy points the last 2 weeks, and Jalen Hurts has had 162 and 178 passing yards those weeks. So he really,
Yeah,
if he and
it's
as
crazy.
the Eagles are kind of trending towards a run first offense, and if Devonta doesn't, keep catching touchdowns, he might not be that great the rest of this year. But I mean, he's shown he has the talent. He'll still be probably a wide receiver 2, maybe wide receiver 3 the rest of this year. But I think looking forward, especially if the Eagles move on, if they use their they have 3 first rounders, probably all in the top 12. They can easily draft the quarterback. They can easily package those and trade for Deshaun Watson or sign an Aaron Rodgers. So it's I
Yeah,
can see them having a huge rebuild. And if Devonta Smith gets a competent QB, he has the talent and has the opportunity. Now it's just getting that good quarterback throwing to him.
yeah. Well, I honestly think if you look at Devonte Smith's schedule for this back stretch of the year, he plays
Real easy.
New Orleans, which isn't an easy opponent, but he plays the Giants, he plays the Jets, then he's on bye. Then he plays Washington, the Giants, Washington again, and then Dallas, which week 18 won't be for fantasy, but he could have a big stretch this last part of the year. He has a lot of really easy
Yeah, I mean,
matchups.
I think if he can keep up that target share and keep catching touchdowns, I mean, him and Jalen Hurts have that really. I think they'll both be really. They could be, pieces to help you win a championship and just get really hot down the end because they do have this. Besides the Saints and obviously the Cowboys matchup too.
Yeah, yeah. So, all right. So we're gonna get into our honorable mentions, but I just want to say a quick thank you. If you have been listening to us ramble on this far, thank you, and thank you for being in the league. This has been really fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, honorable mentions. For me, I'll just we'll each do we can each do
Mm-hmm.
our 1, 2, 3. Quick notes. DeAndre Hopkins is my first honorable mention. He has 20 plus point per game upside every week. He has a great connection to a great QB and a great offense. He doesn't have that much longer to be like an elite producer, but if you're a contender, I think he's a guy that you really do want to have. And next is Devonte Smith. I don't have him in my top 12, but I do have him really close. I think anywhere between 13 and 15 would be a good ranking for Smith in Dynasty. Um, but he is those people that are like, oh my god, he's 166. Oh my god, that's so scary. I don't want a little receiver. They look so stupid right now because he can beat press. They don't touch him. He's always open. Okay. And he has a 25% target share. And do you remember when I said Debo having a 35% air yard share was impressive? Well, Devonte Smith has an air yard share of 40%. 40%. That's ahead of Tyreek Hill. That's ahead of Justin Jefferson, ahead of DK Metcalf, and ahead of Cooper Kupp. Like, they are targeting him. He's getting a lot of high value targets. He is Jalen Hurts' guy. Like, he is that number one receiver. And like I said, he's always open. We haven't even seen his ceiling yet. Jalen Hurts, there's been plenty of throws where Jalen Hurts just either doesn't see him open or he misses the throw. If he gets a good quarterback, look out. The Slim Reaper is coming. So next, for my last honorable mention, I have Jalen Waddle. Two rookies, kind of a cop-out. I don't care. He's obviously a freak athlete. Like, there's no doubt about that. There's nothing not to like about his talent. He's been the focal point of the Dolphins offense, and he has 80 targets, which is crazy. But my biggest concern, which has nothing to do with him, it's not his fault, is the way he's been used. He has a 20% air yard share to go along with an ADOT, average depth of target, of only 6. And for reference, Devontae Parker's average depth of target is nearly 12. So I love the talent, but he's basically being used like Rondale Moore. Like, Deandre Swift is probably being used better as a receiver than Jalen Waddle. I don't know what they're doing right now in Miami, but they're not doing the right stuff because Jalen Waddle should not just be a dump off receiver. Yeah, so those are my 3. Now, what about your 3 honorable mentions?
I think those are all good points. I agree on those, and I can wrap down the podcast here with my 3. And my first one is Jerry Judy. I am very high on Jerry Judy and his talent, and he was one of the most touted receivers coming out 2 years ago of that that great wide receiver class. I just think he has all the talent in the world, and he obviously he hasn't exactly produced yet. He was hurt a lot of last year, and he's been hurt a lot of this year. But I just think I just have to throw him here because I think he, maybe I don't know if the breakout's going to happen this year, the next few weeks, or if it's going to happen next year. But I think this dude is going to end up being a superstar. So I have him as my number 1.
Yeah, can I
Oh,
say something
nice.
really quick? I was a Jerry Judy guy. I was like, oh my god, Jerry Judy, he's like the best receiver in this class. And then I got proved wrong. CeeDee Lamb's great, but I was wrong, but he's still good. Now you can
Yeah, I mean,
continue
it
on.
killed me when I had to trade him away, but I think he is. I have him on. I still have him in keeper, so I still get to enjoy him a little bit. But yeah, I'm super high on him, so it might just be a little bit of homerism. But I'm really high on him. My number 2 is Calvin Ridley. He had really, really high expectations coming into this year. After his breakout last year, he again was one of those guys going super high in Dynasty and redraft, basically all drafts. He obviously he didn't have a bad start to the year. He was getting a huge target share. He wasn't really catching touchdowns, which he wasn't a top 10 receiver. The first few weeks when he was here, but he was still having a pretty good season. But he's another one of those guys that has all the talent in the world. But obviously he has taken that personal leave, so who knows if we're going to see him again this year, or when we're going to see him again. But I just had to throw him up here because I think when he's healthy, when he's playing, he deserves to be in that top 15 range. And he's kind of in between. He's not as young as these rookies we're talking about, and he's not as old as the Cups and the Adams. But I think he
Yeah.
deserves to be in that range, at least at this moment.
Yeah, he's gonna be the same age as Tyreek Hill is now this year. He's gonna
Mhm.
be 27 next year. He ain't exactly a spring chicken. Like